Welcome to part 3 of getting started with SPSS Syntax. You may have noticed that when you paste SPSS Syntax, that the words in the syntax itself are assigned different colors. And these are the default color codes that SPSS uses to make the syntax more readable. So command words such as frequencies or crosstabs or regression are normally shown as dark blue. Subcommands, which denote things like the formatting of the output or charts that are going to be included, are shown in green. And then the values, which are optional keywords associated with that, such as whether you want a bar chart, let's say, or a histogram, normally shown as dark red. Variable names and optional text is shown in black. And procedure-specific values, like, for example, asking for 95% confidence intervals as opposed to 99% confidence intervals, these are normally shown as orange. And there are, in fact, phrases and terms which are shown as grey, and these are comments. They are ignored by the execution. They're things that actually help you understand what the procedure is trying to do, and they include things like titles and explanations. The ability to add comments in syntax, or in fact any type of code, is a really useful and important function, because you might want to explain or remind yourself why you're running a particular procedure in a particular way, or perhaps you're going to be sharing your code with other people, and therefore adding a comment can help explain what you're doing at that particular point. To do so within the SPSS, all you need to do is start your comment with a asterisk symbol and complete it with a period symbol, because any text between an asterisk and a period, a full stop, is treated as a comment and is ignored. It's not processed by the system, so it's not going to generate an error. In fact, if you wanted to add a comment after a command terminator on the same line, so after the full stop, you could even do that by adding a / in front of the asterisk. Here's an example of two comments added to frequencies procedure. So the first comment here is saying, this is example syntax for frequencies procedure. So it's an asterisk followed by a full stop. You can see it grays it out instantly, therefore it will not be processed. And then the second example here, where we have a comment added after the command terminator, after the period symbol, a / followed by an asterisk, and say, notice the syntax is all on a single line with a full stop at the end. Another useful feature of syntax comments is that you can tell the system to ignore a procedure, perhaps as a temporary test, by simply adding an asterisk before the command. Notice that the entire procedure is instantly grayed out when you do that. So simply adding a asterisk in front of procedure means that you are, to use the phrase, commenting out that particular procedure. Maybe you want to do a test, maybe you want to switch off a selection and not have that processed. So again, very, very useful function. Let's have a look at how that's done. So here we are back in an SPSS syntax window, and we're just going to begin by adding another bit of syntax to this window by going to Analyze and running a descriptives procedure. I'll just choose two variables, age and current salary, and hit paste, and of course that is now pasted down below the frequencies procedure that we had earlier. And of course it begins with a keyword, so a command, so it starts with descriptives and ends in a full stop, so everything is parsed and correctly formatted as we would expect. And if we want to add a comment to it, like this is a comment, note that everything is grayed out, because anything between an asterisk and a full stop is commented. Until I put a full stop here after the word comment, the frequencies procedure will not be activated again. Okay, and in the same sense, of course, we could add another comment here and say, okay, / asterisk, this is also a comment, followed by a full stop. That's a comment as well. And if we obviously run these procedures, we can run them safely without these comments messing things up. It's just going to produce some nice output for us. And if for whatever reason we say that actually I don't want to run this right now, I'll just want to run everything else but that, I simply comment it out by putting an asterisk in front of it. I can highlight it all, run it again, and only the frequency tables are run. For many people who are new to SPSS syntax, getting help with syntax is pretty important, and there are various ways in which SPSS does that. First of all, it's got a useful autocomplete function which tries to anticipate what it is you're typing when you're manually typing in syntax. And that helps, of course, if you can't remember exactly how it wants to spell the name of a procedure or something. It's also really useful if you're trying to remember the names of fields. If you can remember the first few letters of a variable or a field name, it'll often autocomplete that or offer you a list of field names that it thinks are the ones you're trying to type in. Also, if you add a / after a command, it will show you, for example, the list of subcommands associated with that. So here at frequencies, we can see things like bar charts, histograms, percentiles, and pie charts popping up. So again, that's quite useful. And a really useful feature is the ability to quickly look up the syntax diagram for a procedure just by highlighting that particular command and clicking the syntax help button on the toolbar of an open syntax window. So for example, if I wanted to add a crosstabs procedure here, you can see I can type in crosstabs. There it is. It's popping up with crosstabs. I can just click on that using the autocomplete. And if I'm not really sure how else to specify that particular command, I can highlight that command word and simply click on the syntax help button up here. Click on that. That will open up the syntax map, what we call syntax map for that particular procedure. Here it is. It says crosstabs is available in Statistics Base Edition. Here is a general way in which we can specify it, variable by variable. So crosstabs tables, variable 1 by variable 2, and then I have things like missing, I have things like cells, whether I want proportions or percentages in there. And it gives me lots of examples down here. So there's crosstabs tables here by sex, cells, row, column, full stop. Gives me an overview of it. Really useful way to try and figure out what the system wants from me to complete the crosstab procedure. So in that vein, when I return to the syntax window, there is the crosstabs command, which I've correctly found. I think the next option I had there was tables. I put in tables and then equal sign after that and put in the name of a variable. So I'm going to look for gender by the variable, I think it's minority. There's minority I have. And then I had some options with regard to what's in the cells of the crosstab. So I'm going to put /cells, there's cells. And I had the option here, I think, of a row %, there's a row. And frequency count, I think there is count, followed by a full stop. That ought to be enough to make that work. And if I highlight it and run it, there's my crosstabs table. It's worth knowing that IBM provides an online command syntax reference guide as a series of web pages that detail every SPSS syntax command. So you can click on them and look them up. And it shows them in the form of a syntax map. There's a particular type of formatting that is used to indicate whether or not, for example, those elements are optional or whether they are mandatory. So here we have the syntax map for the frequencies procedure. For reference purposes, here's an overview of how to interpret the syntax diagrams. It might take a bit of practice, but it's worth familiarizing yourself with them. Uppercase indicates keywords to identify commands, subcommands, functions, operators, and other specifications. So for example, frequencies is a command and format is a subcommand, both in uppercase. Lowercase text indicates something that the user needs to provide, such as a variable name that you need to enter into a particular procedure. Text in bold indicates a default. So there are two types of default. When the default is followed by a double asterisk, such as a value here, meaning ascending values in the frequency syntax, it means that's used even if the subcommand /format is not specified. If a default is not followed by a double asterisk, it is in effect when the subcommand is specified by itself. When parentheses, apostrophes, and quotation marks are indicated, it means they are required elements, they're mandatory. Text enclosed in square brackets indicates that they are optional elements unless otherwise specified. You don't normally have to specify them. And text in braces, these curly brackets, indicate a choice between elements. You can specify any one of the elements enclosed within the aligned braces. And lastly, ellipses, or this dot 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 you get, just indicate you have multiple elements in the specification. So things like variable names, where you can specify an individual variable name or a list of many individual variable names, is what that denotes.